The whole town gathered at the depot that day, not out of kindness, but out of morbid curiosity. They came to see the fool, Caleb Blackwood, the man who'd rather order a bride from a catalog than face the ghosts of his past. They expected a plain woman, a sturdy, practical farmer's wife who could mend fences and cook beans. They expected her to match his broken soul. But when the steam cleared and the train doors slid open, the collective breath of the town was stolen. A woman stepped down, knit just petty, ethereal. Emerald dress, dark hair pinned perfectly, eyes that held a secret. She flew like a paint that had wandered into the dust. And the moment Caleb laid eyes on her, he didn't feel joy. He felt fear, a primal, gut-wrenching terror. Because a man who has lost everything knows that the universe only gives you something beautiful to teach you how to suffer. As she walked towards him, her gaze scanning the crowd with a confidence that silenced the gossips, Caleb realized the advertisement hadn't asked for a woman like this. So why was she here? He'd prepared a speech, a list of rules, no questions about his past, no expectations of romance. This was a business, Transado Phil, a vacance on a falling ranch. But the moment she sat across from him at the super table, the words died in his throat. She ate in silence. Her movements, that's night graceful, deliberate. When she finally looked up, she didn't ask about the cattle or the well water. She asked about the photograph face down on the mantel. "You hide the faces of people you love," she said. "Is it because you fear remembering or because you fear forgetting?" Caleb's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. That night he didn't sleep. He watched her silhouette through the thin cottons, separating their rooms. She stood by the window, staring at the mountains, whispering words he couldn't understand. She wasn't running to him. She was running from something far dangerous than he was. He tried to ignore it. He told himself it was a sin. A man of his standing, with his scars, had no rights to want. But she was everywhere. In the kitchen, humming songs he had never heard. In the barn, when she wasn't afraid of the stallion that had nearly killed him last spring. She moved through his world, like she'd always belonged, and it's terrified him. Because desire, for a man who has felt true loss, is not a pleasure. It's a premonition. He wanted to touch her just once, to see if she was real. But he was afraid that if he did, the dam inside him would break. He was afraid of the vision of himself that existed when she was near. Man who was reckless, hungry, and alive. That night, he stood outside her door, his fist reached to knock. But a noise, a horse whining in panic, broke the trance. He spun around, gun drawn. No one was there, just the wind. In the chaos, he grabbed her arm hard. He expected her to flinch. Instead, she held his gaze. For a moment, they were frozen. The storm raged outside, not inside. The silence was deafening, and then it happened. He saw it. The edge of a scar peeking from the collar of her nightgown. Not a farming accident, not a cooking burn, a deliberate straight line, the mark of a knife. He released slowly. She pulled the collar up, her defiance returning. Bitter eyes betrayed a deep, ancient pain. "Who did this to you?" His voice was rough. She turned away. "The man who thinks he owes me." And in that moment, things flipped. He had thought she was the danger to his peace, but she was a refugee, a woman who had traded one cage for another. His desire wasn't just desire anymore. It was perfection. It was a fury building in his chest. Now he wanted to destroy whatever had touched her. There is intimacy in violence. To teach someone how to take a life is to bare your own soul. He whispered instructions to her into her ear, his breath warm against her neck, and for the first time she leaned into him. But as he leaned in, a cloud passed over the sun. He pulled back. "We have to finish the fence. Today." He knew he was a coward, but also knew that if he kissed her, he would never let her go. And if that happens, he would have go face the man coming for her. The tension had become a living thing. It ate at the floorboards. It thickened the air. He couldn't look at her when she came in the barn because if he did, he will break. She asked him why he kept pushing her away, and his reply was, "Because I'm not a good man, Isabella. I was a soldier, I've done things, and when I look at you, I see a war I'm not sure I can win." She wasn't looking for bravery. She was looking for a man brave enough to burn the world down for her. He grabbed her waist, pulling Gar against him, crashing his lips into hers. It wasn't a gentle kiss, it was a claim, a promise, a confession. He kissed her like a dying man drinking water, and she kissed him equally. He found her staring at the fence and nailed to it was a black feather, and Silas' name was carved there. "Who is Silas?" Caleb asked. "Silas is the man I was sold to, but he found me." The truth finally came out. She wasn't just a runaway. She was an heiress bartered by her father to a crime lord named Silas Vane to settle a debt. She escaped the next day bleeding, vowing to die before he owned her again. She picked Caleb's name from a stack of advertisements because he was the farthest away. Caleb looked at her, his voice steady. "You need go rise north. Now I'll hold them here." But Isabella shook her head. She picked the rifle he'd taught her to use. "I told you I'm not here for a man to die for me. I'm here for a man to fight with me. We stand together." As the sun sets on what might have been their last day alive, Caleb stopped bothering. He walked over to Isabella to call her hands and look at her. The fear was gone. Place was a reverence. "I was supposed to be dead 3 years ago, my wife. My son, a flash flood, took them while I was away. I've been a ghost ever since, but you made me feel the sun again." He pulled a simple silver ring from his pocket. His mother's. "We don't have a preacher, we don't have time, but I need to see it. Before the bullets fly, you are mine, and I am yours until the last breath." She didn't cry. She placed the ring on her finger, stood on her toes, and pressed her forehead to his. She whispered a vow in a language he didn't understand. Later, he would learn it meant, "Where you go, I go. What you kill, I bury." They came like wolves to the slaughter, but they didn't know the man they were facing had already died once. Caleb Blackwood fought like a demon, covering Isabella as she fired from the loft. 2 men fail, then 3. But there were too many. A bullet grazed Caleb's shoulder. He stumbled, blood soaking his shirt. Then Salavin walked through the smoke. He smiled. "Did you really think a rancher could protect you from me? I own the law. I own the land. Come here and I'll let him live." She stepped towards the door. Caleb screamed. Her name was. The blood loss was making his vision blur. As she reached the door, she looked back at him and she smiled. She reached into her boots. Not a knife, a small derringer. But she didn't point it at him. She pointed it as the barrel of whiskey in the corner the one killer had spilled earlier, creating a trail leading to the dynamite stash he'd laid on that porch. "No," she said. "I just needed to get you to step on the porch." Then she fired. The silence after the thunder is always the hardest. He crawled through the wreckage, his hands burning, his heart pounding. He called her name on till he's through towards Raw. He found her lying in the grass, a thin layer of dust covering her face. She wasn't moving. He fell to his knees. He touched her face. Tears streamed down his face. "No, no, you don't get to do that. You don't guess to find me. Just leave. Wake up." He picked her up, cradling her, rocking back and forth. He pressed his ear to her lips. "I told you, I'm hard to kill." 3 months later, the town was rebuilt. They stood on the porch of a new cabin. He spends the defect weeks fearing his own desire, terrified to that's 1.5-hour lead to losing her. But in the end, he learned that love is in the absence of fear. It's the courage to burn brighter than the darkness chasing you.